Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to either the live class or the recording on gut health. What happens in your gut doesn't stay in your gut. And so the way this is going to work is I will be doing the entire class first. If you have a question that you think of, you can either post it in the chat or at the very end after we've paused the recording. I will take questions from anybody who's on live or check the live stream comment on Facebook for anybody who is posing any questions in there. Okay, so let's get going. Okay, so like I said, the title of this class/webinar tonight is called Gut Health 101, Strategies for Improving Your Gut Health. Otherwise, we could also call it What Happens in Your Gut Doesn't Stay in Your Gut, because as you are going to learn, your gut impacts a lot of aspects of your health. A lot of people think of gut health as only impacting your digestive system, but it actually impacts a lot more than that. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So here's a couple things about me. So my name is Anna Laura Brown, and I am a health coach who studied with the Institute of Integrative Nutrition. I'm also an essential oil educator. I used to be a librarian. I'm also a business owner, a dog lover, and an autoimmune warrior. And so that's a little bit about me. And I have personally, unfortunately, had my own fair share of gut and digestive issues that I am still in the process of healing from. And so I have had to, out of necessity, learn quite a bit about gut and digestive health, and then have also learned quite a bit from either working with other people who have those problems, and also through my podcast, Autoimmune Rehab, I have interviewed several people who have gut issues. I actually been interviewed at one point, a lady who was actually born with a bunch of problems, and it took her 17 doctors to finally get some answers. So this can be a really complicated problem for some people. Some people have it worse than others. I don't have it as bad as this other lady had it, but I've still had my own fair share of challenges. And so that is what has led me to learning about some of these different strategies about how to overcome and improve your gut health. It's my own personal experiences with it, and then talking to other people about it. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. So what are we going to talk about in order? So the first thing that we're going to talk about is the importance of gut health and helping you realize some of the different things that and health issues and health challenges that can be caused by having gut issues, and then how to recognize if you actually have a gut problem. What are some of the symptoms that may say, hey, I have some kind of a gut challenging health issue, things that you can do that cause you to have gut problems, things that you can do to help fix your gut problems, and then we'll talk a little bit about what I can do to help assist you with your gut problems, and as well some additional resources of where you can get help if you really are having some major issues. Okay, so the first thing, why is gut health so important? So the first thing is what a lot of people don't realize is that your gut has been referred to as your second brain by several doctors and nutritionists over the last, I'd say it's probably been about the last 10 to 15 years that gut health has started to become more of a focus in a lot of healthcare, and especially in like the functional medicine world. And there have been a couple different books written more specifically by a doctor by the name of David Puddlemeyer. You can actually Google him and learn more about him, and he's written several books about the connection between your gut and your health and your brain, and talking about how what happens in your gut can impact your overall brain health and other aspects of your body as well. And then the second sentence there, as you can kind of see, is that good gut health affects everything else in your body. And the same thing could be said vice versa for that, that bad gut health can affect everything else in your body as well. So if your gut health is out of whack, it can lead you to have all kinds of problems. And more specifically, having good gut health is one of the keys to healing from any kind of an autoimmune disorder. So one of the signs, and you'll see this coming up in the next little while, is that if you have an autoimmune condition, you definitely have a gut problem. So whether that's a thyroid issue, whether it's any other kind of like MS or lupus or rheumatoid arthritis or any of those things, you definitely have a gut problem. And It also can be the key to avoiding too many allergies. So, you know, if you have just what you feel like is over the top, lots of allergies, lots of food sensitivities, you feel like you have poor reactions when you eat a lot of different kinds of foods, this is also another sign that you have some challenges when it comes to your gut health. And this is the whole thing with the autoimmune disorders, the allergies related to the gut health, that kind of thing. So some of the reasons why a lot of times you can't just pop a pill and take a drug and expect to heal from a lot of these things is because you need to actually fix the root cause of what's going on, and that there's a problem with your gut health. And the other statistic that blew me away when I first learned about it, and this is definitely not something that I know most doctors talk about, and I think it's also something that a lot of doctors are just not aware of, as well as something that the general population a lot of times is not aware of, is that 70% of your immune system is in your gut. So your gut controls a lot of your immunity and what happens with your overall health as far as how frequently you get sick, all that kind of thing is controlled by having good gut health. So as you can see from some of the different things on here, gut health is really, really important, and it's not emphasized enough, I think, by enough people. Okay, so how do you determine what the health of your gut is? Well, the first most obvious one is with your digestion. And this is the one that a lot of traditional doctors and medical, their focus is, okay, do you have really good digestion? Do you have normal bowel movements, all that kind of thing? And if you have that kind of normal bowel movements and that kind of thing, then a lot of doctors will say, okay, your digestion is good, we're fine, you know, you don't have any major problems, so, you know, you must have good gut health. Well, the reality is that poor digestion, poor bowel movements, or not having any that kind of thing, those can definitely indicate some serious issues with your gut health. But a lot of people may still have those things be normal and may still have challenges with gut health anyway. Then also the quality of your sleep. So if you're not sleeping well at night and or you don't get into deep sleep or what they call REM sleep, then you potentially have gut issues as well. An autoimmune condition, so I brought that one up already, but I'm going to bring it up again. So you don't have good gut health if you have an autoimmune condition. And how often do you get sick? So, you know, most people, a lot of people will get sick, you know, maybe once or twice a year, but if you've been sick more than once or twice in the last year, and I would say if you've been sick multiple times, like, and especially if it's been severe, so if you keep getting things over and over again, like a lot of colds and flus and viruses and, you know, the big pandemic one and all that stuff, you keep getting it over and over and over again, you know, I'm not talking about having had it maybe once or twice, I'm talking about if you just keep getting it repeatedly and you seem like you can't just get over it, then you probably definitely have got some gut health issues going on there. And then also migraines and headaches can also be connected to not having good gut and digestive health as well. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. Let's see, did I go? No, I didn't. Okay, so then here are some common reasons why you may not have a healthy gut. So the first one, and a lot of these are probably not really all that shocking to people. The first one is that you have too much sugar consumption going on. And, Becca said she can't see the Google Slides. I wonder why. Okay. Let me go back. Let's see. Hopefully. Okay, now I think we're back now. Hopefully you should be able to see them now. So let's go back to common reasons why your gut isn't healthy. I think when I had to let people in to the group, yeah, I think I had to let people in. It somehow got a little bit confused there. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so common reasons why your gut isn't healthy. So the first one is too much sugar. And a lot of us I know don't really realize how much sugar we're consuming. Like, I know one thing that I have discovered that some people aren't aware of is, for example, a lot of your typical ketchup, for example, and even some salad dressings, things like that, even soups, some of those things have as much sugar in them as candy and ice cream or cake. So it's really, really important to read labels and be aware of, how much sugar are you really consuming? A lot of us might think, oh, we're not eating, cake, cookies, ice cream, that kind of thing on a regular basis, so we must not be getting that much sugar. Well, the reality is that there's sugar added to a lot of things that you may not be thinking about. So making sure that you are really careful about your sugar content is something that is really important. Then also too many processed or too much processed foods. So by that, I basically mean most of what comes in a package. I say most of what comes in a package because things like, a package with some rice in it, or a package with some gluten-free oats in it, or, like frozen vegetables or canned vegetables or fruits that literally only have the canned or fruit in it, that's not considered a processed food. Processed food would be anything that basically not only comes in a package, but has more than, I would say, 2 or 3 ingredients, and sometimes even more than one ingredient. So you can look at it as basically, if you're eating mostly single ingredient foods, then you're doing good and not eating, too many processed foods, that kind of thing. Basically, the whole concept of shopping around the aisle, around the edges of the grocery store, rather than going down all the aisles, which is where a lot of the processed food and the sugar and things is. Then sodas. So soda is really not good for your gut health in general. That said, there are some new sodas that have come on the market in the last couple of years to try to help people with their gut health, and who have taken more of a healthier twist. So things like your waters that have just like some fruit added to it, or things like Olipop, or things like that. So when I actually say sodas, I mean, things like Coke and Pepsi and Mountain Dew, that kind of thing. Very not good at all for your gut or digestive health. And then too many antibiotics and drugs. So obviously we live in a day and age where we're lucky enough to have modern medicine, and sometimes you really legitimately you need those things, and you really can't get over whatever kind of infection it is that you got without them. But you really should be really, really careful. And I know a lot more doctors have started really screening more carefully for this and making sure that they don't just give you an antibiotic every time you're sick, and make sure that, you're not able to get over that thing, whatever that thing is, without an antibiotic, and making sure that it's actually a bacterial infection. This is something that I know it's like I said, it's becoming better recently, but in the past, sometimes doctors would just give you an antibiotic when you actually had a viral infection, and that's not actually going to work. So you want to just be really, really careful that you don't just start popping the pills just because, and that you take it really only when it's legitimately necessary. And then last but not least, a condition called leaky gut. So leaky gut is basically what causes a lot of autoimmune conditions. It's where you basically just have different kinds of infections, things like that. And that's actually another thing that I didn't really add on here, but probably should have, would be if you have any kind of different kinds of infections, can cause you to also have an unhealthy gut. So examples of a severe infection, more on the severe end, would be something like if you have Lyme disease, but there's also different things out there like H. pylori is an infection. You could also have some kind of a parasites in you, or you could have different kinds of infections that potentially could be causing you to have an unhealthy gut. And in most cases that, hopefully it's a temporary thing, but sometimes some people end up with, especially with things like Lyme and parasites, things like that, they end up with those infections for a long, long time. And the damaging effects of those things can be seen throughout the entire body for quite some time to come. So those are some of the reasons why you may not have a healthy gut. And so here are some of the top ways to actually improve your overall gut health. So the first one would be to take some high quality probiotics. And I have a picture here that shows you the one that I take. This is the doTERRA one. Personally, I think that the doTERRA one is one of the better ones, and they actually just are releasing, coming out on November 1st, one that's going to be even stronger with lots and lots of billions of multiple kinds of strains of the probiotic. And what is also unique about this one is that it's a dual layered capsule, meaning that the first layer dissolves as it goes into your stomach, and then you actually absorb all, if not almost all, the probiotic into your digestive system. And a lot of the less expensive probiotics that you buy, just like at the grocery store, at Costco, on Amazon, that kind of thing, they do not have that dual layered. So your body's not absorbing a lot of those probiotics. They're just not getting into your system. And some of them also don't have enough strains of different kinds of the bacteria, because generally speaking, you should have, and you can see on that picture there, at least 6 different types of strains in a probiotic in order for it to typically be strong enough. There are, other brands as well. You could check out things like, a lot of times chiropractors and acupuncturists and some functional medicine doctors will actually sell additional probiotics that they can only get through like a medical type clinic. But the idea is that just a lot of the cheap stuff that you just find at the grocery store and on Amazon is really not going to be strong enough to really help heal the gut for most people. Then the other thing that's on here is digestive enzymes. And digestive enzymes, this is something that we all have different kinds of enzymes that help us in assisting to digest our food. And that's just something that naturally occurs in our gut and our digestive system. But some of us, especially if we end up with a compromised gut, whether we have different infections, different problems, things like that, we can use some additional help to help digest that food and help heal and improve our gut. And the digestive enzymes you can get them from different sources and you can swallow them. Typically, you would eat it with a meal. Personally, what I like to do with digestive enzymes is I typically like to take them anytime I'm eating out at a restaurant, or anytime where I'm eating anything where I'm thinking, I don't know, I might have a little bit of a tougher time digesting this. So personally, I don't eat a lot of dairy, but when I do have some occasionally, I typically always take a digestive enzyme pill with it to help me digest it better. Okay, and then of course, as has already been mentioned, be careful about taking drugs. Only take them when they're really absolutely necessary. And then along with that, a lot of times you will hear, I know it's been a while, well, I guess it hasn't been that long, but last time I was on antibiotics, when I went to get my prescription at the pharmacy, it's been probably about 1.5 years ago or so now, the pharmacist specifically told me to make sure to be taking probiotic, not with the antibiotic, because they can counteract each other. So you have to take the antibiotic like in the morning, for example, and the probiotic at night, but specifically told me to make sure to be taking one. Now, granted, I've been taking one every day for about 8 years now. So that's already a habit for me, but they mentioned that I should be doing that. So something that you really want to think about if and when you do end up on antibiotics. Then things would be to do a cleanse. So there's lots and lots of different cleanses out there. Some of them are really big fads. Some are, okay, different things like that. Kind of cleanse that I prefer would be something where you like juice for maybe only about a day or two, or you do something where you eat primarily bone broth or chicken soup without the noodles, so just like the chicken and the broth and the vegetables, or things like that. Maybe you only have one meal a day for about 2 or 3 days, and you drink more like your herbal teas and your waters and your broths and things like that. But I'm not personally really a big fan of going too long without having at least some food in your system. So there's you can research them. There's a lot of fad stuff out there, but personally, like I said, I'm a big fan of going more after like the juice and the broth and the soup and some of that kind of thing for like a couple days. Okay, and then peppermint can help assist with your gut health. So a lot of different things, whether that's the peppermint essential oil or whether that is peppermint tea. Same thing with ginger. You can try that. There's different ways of doing it. You can either drink the tea, you can take capsules that contain them, you can rub them on your digestive area and on the bottoms of your feet to help those absorb up into your system. And then last but certainly not least is to stop drinking soda, more specifically the sugar-loaded sodas. Okay, so and then a couple different more ways to improve your gut health. So I already mentioned the processed foods earlier, so just don't have them anymore. Really limit sugar, and primarily, if at all possible, I would recommend only having, maybe like some honey and fruit, or like things like stevia and some of the natural recurring sugars, and get rid of completely cane sugar, white sugar, brown sugar, the actual sugar, get rid of that completely. And then fermented foods can be really good for you. So examples of fermented foods would be things like, there's a lot of like canned beets that have fermented foods in it. You could also do things like kombucha, things like pickles are a fermented food. Also some of things like kimchi, which is like a Korean food, is a fermented food. You can also even make and ferment things like fermented red onions is something that I tried once with vinegar. So you basically combine like vinegar and like a salt and water and brine and kind of try to ferment. You can ferment different vegetables, things like that. Also, there's fermented cabbage that you can typically get at, like Trader Joe's or Costco or somewhere like that. Eat more of those fermentation foods. Also, you could do things like if gluten is not as big of an issue for you, you could try something like sourdough bread. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine, Jade. We'll see you back here. And then bone broth as well. So bone broth, biggest difference between something like a chicken broth, a turkey soup, beef, just like your regular soup that you would make like a soup with, is that you can actually buy actual bone broth. And my favorite place to get it is from actually Walmart, because they have a pretty good high quality, even organic, I think it is, bone broth. You can get a chicken, a turkey, and a beef bone broth. And you can get it from the Members Mark, which is basically like the Sam's Club version, but you can get it at Walmart without having to go to Sam's Club. And it's only like $1 more than buying just a regular chicken broth. And the biggest difference is that they actually boil the bones. And so there is some collagen and some different things that are in that bone broth that can really help with your gut and your digestive system, even also help with like the health of your joints and your muscles and different things like that by having that actual bone broth. And I typically like to just heat it up and just eat it kind of like a soup plain. You can do that. Or you could even technically even make like an actual chicken soup and use the bone broth and put in, like some carrot, onion, celery. You could add in some additional chicken if you wanted to, if you're making like a chicken soup. Typically with the bone broth, when I'm trying to do that, I'm trying to focus a little more on the healing. So I'm probably not going to put noodles or rice or potatoes or anything like that. Just, a little bit of the more like the green and not highly starched vegetables, that kind of thing. I know some people have tried to make bone broth on their own. The biggest problem is it gets really stinky and it's really hard to do. So personally, I like to actually buy it. Yeah, so the Walmart brand of bone broth it's basically the Members Mark or the Sam's Club version, and they sell it at Walmart. So you don't have to actually have a Sam's Club membership, and that's just what it's called. It's got the label on it. It's the Walmart brand, basically. And I really, really like it. Like I said, they sell it in chicken and beef, and I think they might have a turkey one as well, but there's at least the chicken and the beef ones, because I know I've had those ones before. And yeah, it's a pretty inexpensive way to get the bone broth, to get that digestive gut healing going for you, that kind of thing. Okay. Okay, so how can I really help you? So you can see up here, first thing, if you want to actually talk to me one-on-one about some of what we've talked about, or have a more in-depth conversation about probiotics or digestive enzymes, things like that, you can go to the URL that's there, the meet.annalarbrown.com, and you can schedule an actual time for us to have a one-on-one conversation. You could actually read some of the articles on my blog from annalarbrown.com. The most recent blog post that I wrote is a blog post about a comparison between probiotics and digestive enzymes, talking about the differences between them, when to use them, all that kind of thing. So that could be a really useful article to check out, or you could actually email me, and my email address is there as well. And yeah, okay, so let's answer this question. So digestive enzymes I recommend use. I personally also use the doTERRA one, just like the the probiotics. They have a really good one that I found to work really, really well. You could check out other brands. I personally haven't tried other brands of digestive enzymes just because it didn't really even occur to me to ever use them until I started getting into doTERRA, and then I started using theirs. And so I've never really explored other kinds, but I'm sure you probably could find other kinds. They're just called the Terrazyme is what the name of it is. And I'll stick it in the chat so you can see what it's called. Terrazyme, and my actual doTERRA website I'll put in there too, and then in case you want to check out the probiotics and the digestive enzymes from there. But basically, yeah. And so what I do is, some people, especially, let's discuss the enzymes I guess for a minute here too, is if you have more on, like, I would say a severe issue, if you will, where you're having like either a lot of pain when going to the bathroom, or you suspect an infection, or you're having a lot of allergy and food sensitivity issues, you may want to take digestive enzymes with every meal to, for a little bit to try to get that going. But then once you get beyond that, you should be good just taking them with a just like every once in a while. So for example, like I said, anytime I eat out, I take one. Or personally, I have to be really, really careful with things like dairy, corn, tomatoes can also be triggers for me as well. So I will a lot of times take one of those digestive Terra enzyme pills. That way I can try to digest and absorb it a little bit better. So I think that's it. And let's see, we don't have any more questions in the chat. So that's basically it. So I'm going to stop the actual recording and live stream. And then if anybody has any other questions they want to ask while it's not recorded, you can stay on and we can do that. So let me stop sharing the screen, and I'm going to stop